Welcome to this particular video in the Java programming language that I hope is going to help become a more enhancing and an alternative or additional method of understanding this particular small exercise. I'm going to start out by just actually running the program first, analyzing how it works in Java, and then rerunning the program. So I'm in Eclipse right now. The program that you have is on the worksheet that is associated with this particular assignment. I'm going to go ahead and just run the program first. Don't worry about knowing everything. Just watch the process. I'm going to run this, and I'm actually in the Java Eclipse software right now. When I run this program, I get a dialog box, which you've seen before in a slightly different appearance, and it's asking me for information. It's called an input dialog box, so I can put in any name or any phrase I want to put in. I'm going to put in my name, which is Michael, and click OK, because the computer doesn't know if I'm typing Michael, Michael Eugene Sisk. It doesn't know when I'm finished typing, so I have to hit OK to let it know that I'm through. Another dialog box will appear that says how many hours did I work on this particular week, and I'll put in 20 just to make the math easy. I'll click OK. The next box will ask me what my pay rate was. I've worked 20 hours. Again, to make it simple, let's say $5 per hour. So what's going to happen is it's going to take 20 hours times $5 an hour. 20 times 5 should be 100. When I click OK, I'll get my final pay as $100. It says, Michael, your final pay is $100. Don't worry right now about the perfection, about the missing zero after the decimal point. Just get the gist of the language first. I click OK to confirm this, and notice at the very bottom of the screen down here that it also says, Michael, your final pay is $100 in the console area. This is how the program is going to work for you. Now, I'll go ahead and we'll analyze this program step by step, get that out of the way, and see how it works. Again, the name of the program is always called public class in Java. The name of the program right here is called input boxes. In Java, just as a reminder, I cannot have spaces in the name of the program, and I can't have real funky, strange characters like these. I can use lower and uppercase letters. I can use numerals from 0 through 9, and I can use the underline, not the dash, but the underline button if I want to, or key if I want to name the program as well for spacing purposes. This particular name is also called camel case. Think of like the humps on a camel's back, starting out with a lowercase letter and then changing to capital letters if I have more than one word, like the phrase input boxes. I always have an opening brace for my big public class program, and I have an ending brace after it's over. I've made this very large so you can see this on the screen more easily for those of you who wear or need glasses or contacts. Every program, no matter how the program is in Java, every program in Java must have a method or process called public static void main. Just accept this for right now unless you're going into very far advanced Java as just what you type in. Copying and pasting is also nice too if you don't want to hand copy and maybe make spelling or grammatical mistakes. Public main has its own opening and closing brace also, as I have right here. Alright, the way the program works, first of all, is I have 5 variables where I'm going to store information. Hopefully I can do this clearly on the video for you. I apologize for my being human and maybe making some slight mistakes or readability issues at first. What's going to happen right here where it says string input, actually what input is going to be, this will actually be right here, one of the dialog boxes that you saw earlier. I'm just going to put the word input right now and just put a box after it just for illustration purposes. The next 4 statements that I have will have 4 memory contents. Think about when you put something in a calculator, when you type in a number, for example, that's going to be stored in that calculator so it can use those numbers later on for adding up bills, for computing class test averages, or what have you. So the word first name is going to be a variable. Now I've got the word first name right there. Just think of a box for storage. Hours, and hours can only store integers, meaning numbers without decimals. Double pay rate, that will be a number that can store, or a variable that can store numbers that may or may not have decimals in it. It doesn't have to have a decimal, but it can. I cannot have a decimal value with the one that says int hours. And finally, I've got one called gross pay. So I have 5 pieces of memory going on right there. Now, what happens in these next few statements, you've got something in here. By the way, I mentioned to you earlier that the reason we are able to have these particular dialog boxes in this program, there is a statement which I didn't copy and paste, and I'll throw that up here right now. There's a statement called an import statement. Java is full of a lot of special packages and classes, and that's what makes Java very powerful, so that we can reuse these. And I'll go ahead and throw that guy in here right now so you can see it. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger so that I can make this easier for you to see on the screen. Thank you for your patience as I create these videos on the fly, because I'm dealing with 6 classes and sometimes it's a little hard to deal with initially. I try to make these often. It's called an import statement. I'm telling the computer to go in and find a special package called javax.swing.JOption pane. Basically what this is a package of special classes that allow me to do such things as dialog boxes and radio buttons and all the good things that you see when you're working on the computer with Windows or Macintosh computers that have OKs and cancels and stuff like that. Part of that JOption pane package are 2 particular kinds of dialog boxes. One is called, and I hope I can get this underlined for you, one is called a show input dialog box, and that's what this guy is right here. And you basically just copy this whenever you're wanting to have dialog boxes. The other one is called, and there are 3 of these, the other one down here is called show message dialog. We'll get that at the very end. So going back to this first group, notice that I've got first name equals JOption pane dot show input dialog. What is your name? Let me actually go back to the program for just a minute. I'm going to hop back and forth among screens to make this easier to understand, hopefully. When I click on run, the very first thing that happens is I get this input box that says what is your name. Now remember a minute ago, and this will disappear for just a second as I scroll through here, so bear with me. What's going to happen, if you remember a minute ago when I said string input, what's going to happen here, and I want to make sure that I get this dialog box over here where you can see both of these at once. What will happen right here is you will see the word input right here, and I hope I can show this to you. You'll get the word input right here as the title of the dialog box. The phrase what is your name, whatever I have in parentheses right here is what's going to display in the dialog box. So in this particular case, the computer is going to show the phrase what is your name as the information that it wants. So there's the phrase what is your name right there, and here it is inside the dialog box. Hopefully you can see this right. This is a little bit tricky again for me to do on the screen, so thank you for your patience again. It's going to show what is your name right in this area right here. And whenever I type the information in, for example, if I type the name Michael right there, what's going to happen? The name Michael is going to be automatically stored in the variable that is called first name. So right here, first name will contain the word Michael. So the purpose of that dialog box is to allow me, the user, to type in any name I want to type in, and it will be stored as a string called first name, which I can use later on because I have to flip back and forth between these dialog boxes and my Java program. I click OK to confirm this, and what will happen afterwards, the next dialog box will appear, or in my case right now disappear. Let me move this over where it'll be easier to see. This is a little bit tricky to do on a video, and I thank you again for your incredible patience in my trying to help you out. So down here in the next dialog box, it says, now you notice it says input right here instead of first name, and I'll tell you the reason for that in just a moment. Notice the phrase that says how many hours did you work? That is the part that's going to be in my dialog box. When I pop right here to this dialog box, it says, right here it says how many hours did you work? Now, when I type that value in the computer, and I'll type in the number 20, what will happen, that 20 will be temporarily stored in the variable called input. Now here's an important thing you have to remember about dialog boxes. Dialog boxes automatically, even though it looks like a number, dialog boxes only contain string values. Strings are just a series of characters that run together. Anything you do, a license plate tag, a name, a number, a combination of letters and numbers is considered a string. You cannot do arithmetic on a string. You cannot say 20 times 5 and get 100 if they're strings. Java's very type segregated or type oriented. So what we have to do is we have to have a special function or a special routine or method in Java that will convert strings to numbers. Now we can convert it to an integer number, which means no decimal points, or we can convert that string value to a decimal number, which we call in Java by the word double. And that's the reason that we have the statement right after this one that says hours equals integer.parse input integer. What's happening here is the computer is going to take the value inside of input, which right now is 20, that I typed in just a minute ago. It will take that 20 and it's going to take that 20, put it right here, and that 20 will be converted by this integer parse integer function, and that 20 will be stored in a variable called hours. So hours will now contain the value 20. The reason for doing that is now we have a variable which is not a string data type, but hours, if you recall, is a variable of data type integer, which means I can do arithmetic on it. Right here, if you remember, it says int hours. So I'm basically taking that value that's in the dialog box and converting it to an integer. Alright, I didn't have to do that with my first name because Michael is not something that I do arithmetic on. I don't say Michael plus John equals Mary or whatever. Alright, when I hit OK, the third input box is going to come up, and hopefully you understand the process with that right now. A lot of this works better if you actually type this into the Java Eclipse program and look at it yourselves. Alright, it says here, what is your hourly rate? Why does it say what is your hourly rate? It says what is your hourly rate because anything I put inside of quotes is what is going to be displayed in that dialog box. That set in quotes is referred to as a prompt because you're basically telling the computer user what you want them to do. It's like instructions when you're doing a video game, when you're asking how many players or what level of the game or what equipment you want to fight that monster or that dragon or what kind of riches or goods you're going to have. I'm not a video game player, you can tell that. Here's that third dialog box. Again, the name of it is input. And it says what is your hourly rate. I type in that value, and let's say I put in $5, or you can put any decimal value you want to. I'll put, just for the sake of argument, I'll put 5.25. I'll put 5.25 an hour, 5.25. That's a true double value or real number value with a decimal. Now, where does that 5.25 land? Initially, that 5.25 lands in the variable called input. So what's going to happen here, that 20 that I had earlier is going to be replaced by this new input value, 5.25. Now, can the computer use that to calculate? No, it cannot, because input is a string value. Therefore, we have to convert this to a number. Now, I can't use the integer parse integer that I used earlier because this is a decimal value. So what I now have to do is I have to use something called double dot parse double, a different animal now. I'm taking this particular method or function, if you will, and I'm going to take the value that is the new value for input, that's 5.25, the value that is in the dialog box. I'll convert that to a double value and store that in a box referred to as pay rate. So now pay rate will get a copy. It doesn't move the value, it just makes a copy of it and converts it to something that I can calculate. So now pay rate is sitting there in the computer with 5.25. Hours is sitting there with the number 20. What the computer does now that I have the 20 for hours and the pay rate for 5.25, what we now have is a third box right here, and this is just a standard Java statement. This is where we can do arithmetic. This is referred to, by the way, as an assignment statement. An assignment statement simply assigns a value to a variable. What always happens in every computer language I've ever used, Java, C++, Pascal, COBOL, any programming language, you have the name of the variable on the left and the math is always done on the right. If you write this in reverse order, it will not work. So what happens here is on this side, it does the math, and on the left side, it does the storage. How does the computer do this? The value of hours is 20, so it puts a 20 right there. Pay rate has a value of 5.25, so what the computer does is it takes the 20 and multiplies it. That's what the little asterisk means. 20 times 5.25. It does the arithmetic, and when that's calculated, if you multiply 20 times 5.25, and you can do the math yourself right there, you would end up getting, what is it, 105, I think? I'll guess at that for now. Gross pay, you'll get the number 105. And what will happen right there, that value is stored in a variable called gross pay. Now it's stored as a decimal value. That's why the decimal 0 makes a difference. Remember that gross pay was defined earlier in this program as a double value. So it does store a decimal value in there. Alright, so as soon as I hit OK for this dialog box, by clicking OK, it does the arithmetic. Now you see what's happening here. Now it says instead of input, it has the word message right there. This time instead of having the word input in the blue background on this dialog box that I'm waving around, it has the word message. That's because I'm using a different dialog box right here. Instead of it saying input, it's saying show message dialog. And just follow the syntax for this and trust me. What the computer does first, and this is the way Java works, it takes the value of first name. Whenever you don't have anything in quotation marks, if it's in quotation marks, it prints it precisely. If you see, I'm going to redo this. Bear with me just a second. I'm going to make this a different perspective for those of you who may need additional clarification. I'm going to put this on a different line so it makes a little more sense as to what's happening. Bear with me, and again, thank you for your patience. What happens here, if you want to think of actually circling everything except the pluses, you might see a breakdown as to how this works. That's what I'm doing right here. Here's how Java works. Java will either print precisely what is in quotes, or it will try to do arithmetic or memory. Here's what happens. The computer prints out exactly what's in quotes here, the words your final pay is $, exactly what's in quotes. In the case of first name, there are no quotes around it. If I had quotes around it, it would print out FIRSTNAME exactly. So I leave the quotes off of it. What's going to happen right here is going to find out the value of first name in memory. And hopefully you recall that it printed the word Michael. That's what was stored when I typed it in earlier. Gross pay, if you remember what we calculated earlier, gross pay had the final value when the calculation was done. That was 105. So it prints again exactly what's in memory. Gross pay is 105. So it prints out right here and it puts it right up against it actually. 105, bear with me. It prints out 105, and typically it would print 2 zeros, but for right now don't worry about it. And that's what prints out. Now, it prints this in a dialog box. Why does it print it in a dialog box? Because that's what I told it to do right here. And that's the reason when you look at, bear with me again, I'm saying bear with me a lot, but I mean that. You're having to be patient as I try to illustrate this. It's going to print, it's going to print exactly, Windows and I are fighting each other right now. It will print exactly what is in that show message dialog statement. It prints it inside the dialog box, and I click OK to confirm it. Now I skipped a statement on purpose that you've seen before with Java. If I move up here to this statement, the one that says system.out.println, and hopefully this doesn't jump to the next screen. There it is. All right. Same thing happens here. This is not in quotes, so it prints the value of first name, which is Michael. This part is in quotes, so it prints your name. And if I don't put a space right there after inside the quotes, it bumps right up against it. So you have to watch your spacing very carefully, or your words run together. This one is not in quotes. The pluses are basically put in there when you want to separate something in quotes from something in memory. And that's why the pluses are there. It's called concatenation. You're basically hooking things together. This will print it on the monitor, on the console in your Eclipse program, and the other phrase that I had earlier will print it in the dialog box. Now, having seen this, and if you need to process this more, read my sheets, play this video over and over and over, and if worse comes to worse, come by my office and I can show you in person. These are the only ways when you're online that I can help you with these concepts. You have to choose your learning style and see what works for you. Let me run this program a second time for you. I'm going to click run. Hopefully you can see this. And it will ask you for your name. That's the input dialog box. I type in Michael. Click OK to confirm it. The next input dialog box asks me how many hours I work. I type in 20. Remember, once I hit OK, I've got to convert this number to an integer. It won't come out of this box directly except as a string. You have to convert it. It then asks what your hourly rate is, 5.25. And again, if you leave these statements out that say parse integer or parse double, it will not calculate properly. Click OK there. The message dialog box is right there. And the one where we had system.out.println is down here at the bottom. Hopefully you can see that. Again, the sheets. I hope the original sheet that has this exercise in there will help you out. Now, if you want to actually type this program in the computer, I would not advise hand typing it. What I would do if I were doing this in Java is I would select that original program with your mouse. Save yourself some time. You've got busy lives. And just copy and paste it. So if you're going into Eclipse, make you a new class, a new project, and a new class. You know how to do this, but I'm just going shortcut in the interest of time. And if you want to call the name of this input boxes or whatever, type it in right there, and then you can copy and paste it. I hope this video is helpful. If you have additional questions, please message or email me, or make an appointment in person if you need to.